Hey, it's Nikki. We have a podcast on our network called Working Forward. It's all about future of work topics. And there's a special series that we do in the People Forward Network community, myself with our Chief Strategy Officer, Jason Cochran, and we break down the inner workings of People Forward Network and how we're doing some things to really model the way of what it's like to lead and live out what it means to be a people forward organization. So I hope that you enjoy the special bonus episode that I recorded with my dear pal, Jason Cochran.
Welcome to Working Forward Conversations, a special live, unfiltered episode hosted inside the PFN community where we explore bold, working forward ideas we adopt and use here at People Forward Network. Enjoy. All right, here we go. We are back for another Working Forward conversation inside the People Forward Network community. I've got Nikki, Llewellyn Gregory with us, our CEO and founder of People Forward Network. Nikki, how you doing?
Great. So excited for this topic. These are so fun, but then every once in a while, like as a topic that just like totally speaks to my heart, I'm like, yes.
Yes, and this is part of our culture code. So you're going to have lots of good stuff to share today about why this topic we're going to cover today, results over time spent, is so important to us at People Forward Network. And we know it's hopefully going to be really helpful for a lot of other leaders too, because let's face it, Nikki, with advancements in AI, most business models, if they aren't already thinking about a different way of how they charge and add value, they're going to have to soon, because a lot of the traditional just hours spent, everything's speeding up. Consumers are expecting things in shorter amounts of time. And so it's going to be more about impact, a lot of automation and certain tasks being done. And so this is a timely time to be thinking about this type of topic, I think. But Nikki, as we get ready to kick this off, tell us about your thinking philosophy, a lot of the things that help shape the very beginnings of People Forward Network around this specific topic of results and impact over time spent.
Yeah. And I don't have like this one particular story like some others do around like I had this leader who would monitor in my remote work life. They'd monitor the green light to make sure I was always sitting at my desk. Or I had this one leader who would look at my calendar and see what was on it and, see what I was doing to make sure that I was being most productive. I'm like, I didn't have that. Thank God. Maybe because it just speaks to my soul to be like my most productive, like be in my best self for the time that I am working. It's just like how I'm wired. But then I started thinking like, how did we get to this place that we are checking the box on time versus the results? And if we had always kind of thought like that, I know some industries and some jobs aren't as flexible. I get that, right? It totally depends on the type of work you do. But how did we get to this place that, at a point in the world, the time span, we just thought about it like 9 to 5. You go and you get there at this time. It doesn't matter like what's going on. You're just there. It's like, what are you doing? You're sitting there. Like, and so I'm just passionate about results and output, and the smarter that we get with our efficiency and how we collaborate as a team, we can work less hours and be more strategic, smarter, not harder. Let's go with that.
I love that. And we're going to unpack some of the recipe of how we go about approaching that here at PFN. But I do want to share a story, Nikki. You said that you didn't have a moment that kind of did that. I haven't either, but I'm not going to use names. But I have a friend here in the neighborhood where I live, and he's kind of lived through this. He's currently living through it where he currently is employed. If he leaves, like if he goes to one of his kids' baseball games or soccer games, and he needs to leave at like 4:30, he has to make up that 30 minutes over the weekend and actually go to the office.
Wow.
And so you're talking about, we're really fortunate at PFN because of who we are and the way that we try to live, life work integration, and a lot of those forward thinking things. And because we're around so many leaders and organizations that think like that, like we do, we often forget a large majority of the world is still operating in this way that my friend is, which is, no, you owe me the 9 to 5, even if you're only going to come in and just piddle on your desktop computer, you still owe me that 30 minutes kind of mentality. And there are still places that operate like that. And that's why we think these conversations are really important, is because we think that type of work is going to go the way of the dodo bird. It's quickly going to become extinct, especially the more that AI starts to automate a lot of those tasks. Have you ever had stories like that of people that you've known that have been in those types of conditions?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Chelsea on our team is one of the greatest storytellers. She came from a place that actually was the best place to work, right? They got the award over and over again, but the stories of, watching, like hovering over her workspace, to see what she was doing at any given time. I'm like, I mean, just crazy. So she's probably the best storyteller I know. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're on the other side, but it brings me to, today I want to talk about like, what is the mindset around valuing results over time spent. It's the output, not the input, right? Working sharper and smarter. And we're looking for the output. And then it helps people really take ownership in their roles because they can kind of be creative and learn. And they have their coaches and mentors and different programs that we offer to help them with the output. And they own that output, not just the process or the input. So like mindset is big, how we think about it. But then this is Chelsea helped coin this term. I always think of her when I think of this term, unlearning. What do we have to unlearn? And I still do that sometimes where I'm like, did I put in enough time today? But I'm like, I got done, I feel like more today, like in 3 days worth of work in this morning, because I was just in the flow and knew exactly what to do, super focused, So unlearning is a key part. And then the other thing, Jason, we need to talk about is AI is accelerating this like a beast. We're working on a 4-day work week at PFN. We're currently at a 4.5-day work week. Everybody kind of picks which half day and it's a perk. We all value the flexibility big time at PFN. But I'm talking like AI. And I was talking to Ben Freeman, who's in our community and a dear friend last night. I'm like, I mean, there's really no reason if we're really leveraging AI, we can be at a 4-day work week like now. And so it just really challenged me to think that AI is just really helping us.
It is. It's making us rethink these things. Like you mentioned, this is a traditional model. I think about hours spent, industrialization at work then. Things have changed. We even chatted about this last week, Nikki, when we were talking about balancing human touch and automation. We brought up that McKinsey study that said by 2030, 30% of work is going to be fully automated. That's currently in the U.S. economy. And so, when we talk about a race to the bottom, if your only monetization model for your business is the time spent and your consumers are expecting you to spend less time because you should be using AI, which can just rapidly help you become more productive and efficient, then eventually they're going to be like, well, it should take you less time. Can we pay you less? Or can we pay you for a few number of hours? You do not want, if you're a leader, you don't want to be getting into those conversations. You want to be having conversations about value delivered, results, and impact. And that's what Nikki's talking about. And it does take this mindset shift in order to start thinking that way. And Nikki, one of the things that I'd love for you to lean into that I've experienced in working at People Forward Network is this belief of like, where is that 80% focus? Where should the time be spent? And I know that kind of sounds like an oxymoron when we're saying it's about impact, but it's really a way we go about thinking, okay, of my time that I have, where's it going to have the biggest impact and results? And that's where a lot of our OKR systems, making sure we're moving the bigger rocks to really important things, that's where we want to be focusing our time, because otherwise the tyranny of the urgent really can take over. And you'll start looking at your calendar and being like, well, if we're looking at hours spent, I'm spending a lot of hours, but am I cranking out a lot of value and impact with where those hours are being spent? And so that's been an interesting exercise for me in growth and looking at my calendar and evaluating it. And that's part of our culture code, isn't it? Is thinking about things that way.
Yeah. It started to make me think, I was prepping for this today, around how do we meet people where they are? So most leaders would say role clarity is important, and we can always get better and hone that in and things shift, but you're always focused on everyone has crystal clear role clarity. That's a good day. We all would agree, I think. And what if we added goals to that role, very specific goals that role is working on, and then key KPIs? And I think the goals and the KPIs are what then help us understand what is 80% of our time. So then if we're looking at our calendar, we're like, okay, do we have time allocated enough to reflect the goals and the KPIs that we're working on? Kind of feel like that's the rhythm: role clarity, goals, and KPI for each person. let alone the team, collective goals. What do you think about that?
I love that. And I think it's James Clear, I think, that said in his book, Atomic Habits, that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Ultimately, it's where you play. And I love that we focus so much on building our systems. That way, we're still honing, we're still improving those things, but we really focus on developing those mechanisms around our monthly sprints, our OKRs, making sure that those role descriptions have the 80% focus in them. Here's what those KPIs are that look like success for the role, because we want everyone to have that clarity of what it looks like and to then adjust their schedule around those things. Something else thinking that came to mind when you were talking about that is, you brought up that we're on this pursuit, this big goal, this lofty goal of getting to a 4-day work week. And I wanted to ask you, with any of our partners or client, when you bring that up, has anyone been like, well, how are you going to do that? Is that even possible? What have some of the reactions been that you've heard when you bring that up outside of our team?
I mean, just in a general sense, let's even take it into just like my personal life, like hanging out on the weekends with friends that like I don't work with, and mentioning, we have a very flexible life. I don't really care when people work. I mean, they know if they need to be there for certain things, really trust them to like own their seat. Like, how'd you get to that place where, did they come to you like that? I'm like, no, like there's a number of people that came in a completely different space, like Chelsea. We're talking about, time monitoring and hovering, having the manager that's hovering around. Or let's just give the example of Ashley. I love to give examples of Ashley Young. She'll come to me and say, why are we doing this? Should we be doing this anymore? It's not even like work. It's not proving results. She's so wired in that even before halftime, I asked, like, should we still be doing this email campaign? Well, I mean, nobody's really reading it. We haven't really got much feedback. We should probably like take that off of there. So she's discerning based on the outcome of what it's doing versus like, this is in my systems to do. Right. And that's just awesome. So I would say I live in a bubble with the team that we're around, and many others were like, I don't even understand what you're doing. So wouldn't it just be a better world if we all could think about the world this way?
It absolutely could. And I don't have the studies in front of me, but other countries that have gone about the 4-day work week model, there's not been a drop or decrease in productivity, in efficiencies. Like, as long as you have the systems to support everyone, the things we're talking about, the OKRs, the KPIs, everyone has clarity on their role. They know what the focus and the priorities are. There's constant communication of where you are. If you're hitting any roadblocks, that it really is possible to have a very productive 4-day work week with not needing that 5th day.
A really good way to look at this, like if you're like, wait, hold on, I'm just trying to even understand where to start with that. If you looked at your calendar, going back to just a longtime leadership principle, what your checkbook or your bank account says you're paying for and where your time is spent are the things that are most valuable, right? That's a cool little reflection there. If you've never heard that before, go do that. Look at your calendar, look at what you're paying for. That is what you value in life. And if you look at, okay, I'm going to just look at my calendar in this sense, and what are the things that I could cut back? I don't need as much time. Oh, I block an hour for every meeting. Do you need an hour for every meeting? I was just thinking about, could you do it in 30 minutes? Or what are the things that are on your calendar that you're like, why am I doing this? If you even feel that at all, we have another saying, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So if you kind of have that, like, I don't really know why that's on my calendar, it probably shouldn't be on your calendar. And you could probably gain a day back just looking at that. And then you have AI thrown into the mix, and then we'll probably be at a 3-day work week soon. I don't know.
Right. Ashley and I just did that yesterday. And by the way, Ashley posted a questionnaire that we want to get to. But Ashley and I just did that yesterday. If there's not a need for our weekly check-in, then we're like, hey, do you need to punt? We'll punt this week. And we'll catch up next week if there's anything to cover together and give that time back. But Ashley asked a really good question here. How can teams align on what, quote unquote, impact looks like for their specific roles or projects?
I'm going to lean into our shift this year in 2025. We shifted from the annual plan and the quarterly OKRs and goals down to monthly sprints. So our monthly sprint is an all team focus. We have a board, Jason, that you created as our chief strategy officer, of our goals for the year. We're still kind of baking those out because we got so locked in. We know our pillars. We know our most important things. Like we're working towards the 4-day work week. We all know that. But you break those down. Here's our overall goals. Where's we want to go for the year. And then here's the monthly focus. And then from your seat as a team member, okay, I'm in marketing or I'm in operations or, content creation or strategy or sales. How does this sprint right now, that's the priority. What are the things that in your role are most important for that? And many times it's now knowing this is the monthly focus, crystal clear focus, because it's this month and these core things. We never have more than 5. Then sometimes a team member could come and say, hey, I think maybe we all missed this. Like we should probably be creating like a content series that we're sending out on LinkedIn because, LinkedIn's our channel. They're able to see that, right? Because we've taken a lot of the reason. Who was I talking to the other day that said, the reason why we don't get started or it takes us a long time in the morning to get going or whatever, because we're overwhelmed. It's not because we don't want to work. We don't want to do the things. We're like, oh, I'm looking at all these things and it's just too much. But the more that you bring things in and they're more laser focused, people are like, okay, I'm getting rid of the overwhelm or the anxiety. So I'm clear and I'm not cluttered. Now, what is the impact I can make? Because I know my role. What's the impact I can make, and really offering them to volunteer ideas. Hey, our sprint. Yeah, this long. What's realistic within your role that you could do to help us with that outside of maybe what we put out there and working through that as a team,
For sure. Yeah. The monthly sprints have definitely helped to dial in and say, these are the deliverables, the things that are really important for focus this month. I love that. The other thing too, that we've been working on, and probably since Ashley asked us, it's a good reminder for us to go back to it. But when we had our retreat, one of the exercises we went through as a team was looking through our role description, each of us individually, and then saying, what are the most important questions that I need to solve for in my role? And we had them, include those in the role description, and then boil it down to what's the one overarching question, the 80% impact thing in your role that moves the needle for the company. And I'll share mine as an example, because I was lucky enough, since I was coming up with these whimsical ideas, that I had time to sit with it and do it for a while. But we'll probably circle back with the rest of our team so that they can get those ironed out too. But what mine landed on was that at the end of the day, where my focus, the impact that Chief Strategy Officer, PFN, needs to do is focused on profitability and sustainability of the company. Mm-hmm. Strategy needs to lead to that ability to scale, needs to lead to still being around in 2 to 3 years in a very competitive industry that's changing when it comes to podcasting, in podcasting production and promotion. And so that's what mine ultimately got funneled down to. It may continue to iterate or get sharpened over time, but that's kind of an example of like, okay, if you can get your role whittled down to something like that, that's a clear, succinct, simple statement of like, this is the question, the thing that I need to be obsessed and consumed about in my role. I think it helps to then connect that to the impact and then your calendar, and then seeing how, okay, the monthly sprints, this is how this aligns with my focus or what my focus brings to how we're going to advance these monthly goals. That's how I think about it too, is coming at it through that lens. So TBD, we still have some additional activity and fun that we'll do around that as a team, but that's kind of the direction we're heading when it comes to the role descriptions for each of us on the team too.
Yeah, I'll share just 2 more examples just to like help it be crystal clear, because I think that is brilliant. What is the question I ask myself every day to help me stay focused in my most important zone? So 2 things come to mind for me. One is, how am I helping each team member or helping team members at PFN be in flow state? Like, what are the things that are dragging you down? What doesn't feel like it's in your strengths? Like, anything to explore that takes us away from that flow state feeling, because that is the epitome of meaningful work. Like when you feel in that flow state, you're like, I am using my strengths. I am serving a mission. I feel impactful. I'm contributing. Time's flying by. I enjoy it. Like there's nothing better than that. And I live for that. So that is one for me. Another one that just leans into what I love to do in business is, what am I doing to impact our sales pipeline or deals closed? the end of the day, that's how all of our people continue to be here, and we continue to grow and make more and more impact and be abundant. So I'd say those two questions, but that's brilliant, Jason, like thinking about what is that question? So aside from like removing the clutter, having that core question to guide you is so powerful.
It is. And another one that you've instilled in what we do here that I think is really important and simple for any organization to do, but we use Slack for a lot of our internal comms. We have a celebration channel. And in there, we celebrate what impact and success looks like so that we're constantly reinforcing, teaching, equipping, guiding one another on the team of what those celebrations and those wins are. And I think that's an important part of that impact wheel also, is to help people connect the dots of the day-to-day work that they're doing, of the value, the impact that it's bringing, and hearing those stories from those partners. Because sometimes you may have done something on a project, but you may not have been in the meeting when it's ultimately delivered or something. You want to hear, how did it go? You know, and we've got a great system where we make sure everyone's up to speed on hearing about daily, literally daily, seeing the celebrations, the gains, the impact, the results that's going on from everyone's collective efforts. So if you're a leader, that's one of the things too that I would highly recommend, because that shows what impact and success looks like, and that's what you're wanting to replicate. And it just gives some of those good dopamine hits too that we all need to know that what we're doing really is making a difference and impact in the lives of those that we're serving.
I love that. And Ashley had another question. What's one habit you've changed to work more intentionally and with greater impact? Jason, you want to start and I'll go next?
Put my phone away. This has been a big one for me this year. I feel like I've shared this on several episodes before, but that's something I realized this year, that my phone was becoming a pretty big distraction. And even if it was like work related stuff, at times it's like, oh, let me go check over here and see what's going on. Like, no, stay focused on the big things that I'm trying to move, that I need to get done, that I need to get shipped. Then I'll designate a time in the afternoon. And usually for me, it's around 3:30 in the afternoon, before the second round of kids are starting to come home from school. That's when I'll hop in. And a lot of times I may check Slack messages. I'm going to check all my emails and see which ones that I need to respond to. So for me, it's been making sure that my phone isn't becoming a distraction, even though it's a productivity tool, which kind of seems like an oxymoron. How about for you, Nikki?
Oh gosh, I would say my quote unquote rigid morning routine. I know all the things that I need to do in my morning, and I keep a journal that every morning I have like the same. I mean, some mornings I'm off, and when I don't do this, I can feel it. It's just not my best, but I have a journal that like guides my day, and it's really my whole scope of thinking through everything from looking at all of my meetings on my calendar, what needs prepped for that, what might need moved, doing a little bit of reading that includes like growth reading versus like Jesus reading, moving my body, drinking water, laying out my supplements. You know, a lot of it will depend on how I slept. So I'm kind of prepping the day for like, what's my last thing for when I'm going to go to sleep. There's just so many things that are, you know, and the question asker here, her number one is discipline. So I don't have discipline. Actually, I do have discipline in my top 10. So I could give myself some credit. I am disciplined, but Ashley was like, so disciplined. I have to really work to make sure that I stick with those things, so that, because I know that that's my recipe for my best self. And I'll give you the opposite of that. This morning, I was meeting a friend. I had to drop something off, and she's 15, 20 minutes away or whatever. And I had said, hey, yeah, I can stop by in the morning. Are you working from home or whatever? She's like, I have to leave by 8:15 in the morning. So I said, okay, well, I'll get there around 7:30. And she goes, I don't wake up till 7:45. And I was like, I don't even know. No judgment, because maybe she does all her prep at night, like whatever. But it gave me anxiety reading that, because I have to have so much ample time to do all the things so that my day goes okay. And many people will say like, your calendar is back to back. You have all, you know what, all these things. In order to do that, I have to be my best self all the way around. It takes a lot of prep in the morning. So morning routine sharpening, I'm not perfect at it, but I work at it. So
I love that. And that's a good reminder. You know, the time really is kind of a funny concept that we have, even outside of work, right? Like, I've known people that have lived a full life and they were grateful, even if they only had 40 or 50 years. And I've known other people that maybe have lived a long time and, you know, said things, you know, been family members that have like, I don't really know what I did in my 80 years, you know, kind of thing. So it's one of those things, just not to get too philosophical, But this whole concept of getting like too hung up on time sometimes, so like that's where the value is. It's like, that's about what you're doing. It's about what you're doing every day. And if you can spend that time being intentional, like this is where I want to have impact, this is where I want to drive results, and having systems in place to support that, then you're going to have a lot more flexibility in your day. You're going to have more free time. It's not going to have to be like a 9 to 5 probably to get that stuff done. It's going to be a lot of focus, a lot of discipline, a lot of systems to support that, a lot of things you put in place to support your team that way so that you can work cohesively toward that.
Totally.
But you can eventually get to that 4-day work week, which I think not only a lot of employees, but a lot of organizations should strive for, especially as AI is going to help us automate by 2030, 30% of tasks that we currently think about when it comes to the economy. Nikki, some closing thoughts as you're thinking about this, results and impact versus time spent. What do you want to leave with the listeners?
I want to make just a really loud statement of an example of something that I do every once in a while. And every time I make this decision, I'm always like, I'm so glad I made that decision. Say I have something on my calendar that is maybe a presentation, maybe it's a podcast recording. It's something where I'm like, I am off today. I have a headache. I don't feel well. I'm not my best. And if I have the option to move that, because I know I'm going to be my best on another day, to the point of I'm not trying to check the box with this. And so I'll discern like, okay, maybe it's a strategy block. It's a 2-hour strategy block, and it's been on the calendar for a while, but that day is just not the day for that. I am not going to check the box and do it because I could do 10x if I was in my best state. And so that's just an example of like, results over time spent. But I would say, just thinking about for yourself, like what are your results? What is impact? And from that very philosophical standpoint you were sharing, Jason, life and the impact you want to make, if you feel like you're just like zombie zone through this life, stop. Like it's just not worth it. No paycheck is worth it to be like just checking the box through life, right? I don't care whatever that number is that you get in your bank account. If you don't feel that and you're just getting through, there's the big change needed. And then, looking at what's that question in your role, like you said, Jason, that you challenged our team with, what's the question that I ask myself every day that really leans into the majority of what I'm here to do, and focusing on those and having the clear role and goals and KPIs so that you're not trying to figure out what am I supposed to be doing? You can live and thrive in that. And then to use Chelsea's language of the unlearning, what do I need to stop? Like I'll share one of mine is, I still struggle with this sometimes. I'm going to go run errands in the middle of the day and I'll even put a block on the calendar or something cancels. I still feel anxious about it. I don't know why. Like I do. And I'm like, I'm the one that's saying results over time spent. What is that? And just working on that, because it's like, I have this made up thing in my head. Like I can't go run errands. Like I'm fine. Like there's nothing happening that I need to be sitting at my desk. So what do you need to unlearn? And then finally, what are you doing every single day or week to learn AI to advance your life, advance your team? Like you need to prioritize it. It's such a big deal. And it's right now, like if we do not learn it, we're going to be out of the game.
So well said. And we want to thank you all for being with us today. That's a great recap of a lot of the high points that we shared with you today on how we think about it here at PFN. We'd love to hear from you as you're thinking about it, how much of that resonates with you. Here's the other thing we'd love to hear from you. We do these every Wednesday at 2:30 Eastern time here in our PFN community. Send us some ideas. What are some topics of things that you want to go deeper in about that we can share with you about how we're thinking about it, how we're approaching it at PFN? Because that is one of the things. We are an agile team. And so we're continuing to try and push the envelope to make sure that we're sharpening and honing and getting better. And so chances are, even though we may not have the exact answer, that we're probably experimenting or thinking about experimenting a lot of the things that may be on your list. And we'd love to hear those things. And we provide some insight and things around what we're trying to do and how we're thinking about it. So until next time, thanks for tuning in to this Working Forward conversation, and we'll see you. Thanks for being part of this special Working Forward conversation. Want to join us live next time? Head over to bit.ly/PFN community to join our PFN community and become part of the conversation that's driving what's next in work and leadership. See you there.